You asked me when I was ready.
Well, because I don't want to go and have her then come back and wait for her.
Oh, okay.
It's better to go, be all ready to go, and then we leave.
What are you gonna do with that?
My alcohol?
Yeah. In your lotion and stuff.
If they don't let me take my lotion, I'm gonna throw a tantrum. Because this, smell this lotion.
You're not going to be allowed to take that. You will absolutely. I understand you won't be able to take that on the
check
plane.
in your bags.
Why?
And
you
you
don't-
can, you can check bags, but you can't bring it on the plane with you. I promise you, you will throw your tantrum now.
Well, you
I'm
don't want.
so good. I gotta wait till next Christmas to get it. Oh
Okay,
my
calm
god.
down.
Check your duffel bag.
You can check your bag.
Yeah, but you have to pay.
Bless you.
You can't check bags. You have to pay for everything.
Oh wow.
It's just lotion.
But smell
It's
it.
lotion.
I have to wait until
Morgan,
next
calm
Well,
year.
what do you have to
to
say?
get
How much is it?
It's $25. I don't know. I don't fly on Delta, but I know on United it's $25 or $35.
I'll get my grandma to ship it to me.
It's more expensive to ship it than it is to buy a brand new one. Let's go. Bring your stuff with you, and so in case we run out of time, you're all ready to go.
Bye.
Daddy, how long are you gonna be here?
I don't know. Probably you get out of here. You get back. Oh, I won't be here till you get back. If you're going to Charlotte. If you go to Charlotte.
We will be back. We have to bring Chloe back before we go to Charlotte.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be here. I'll be here then, for sure.
Morgan, how are you that won't even be charged for you to use it.
Well, I was gonna charge it tonight. I'm at grandma's.
So what you're saying is you think you're gonna take that home with you? I'm not giving this to you.
I know you said you would loan it.
Yeah, but then you're gonna have to ship it back. This would be more expensive to send it back to me than it would to buy a new one.
Are they at the airport?
Are they at the airport?
Yes.
You can buy one at the airport, yes. I'll give you one, I don't want to give you this one.
What do you have to? What do you want?
You can give her
I
mine,
need a
Mama.
portable charger. Cause
Oh,
Mama.
I don't want my
Just don't
phone
put it on
down.
your phone.
well, you can probably buy one at the
It's
airport.
that simple.
I told her.
You should have charged it here last night.
I did. I'm not flying until tomorrow morning. Why did I stutter? I'm going. I have to wake up at like 6 in the
Yeah.
morning. It's not gonna
Okay,
be fun.
see, your best friend is amazing because she's giving you hers.
I don't think so. Love you.
Mm-hmm. You better.
Oh, you're so cute too.
We'll be back, Papa.
Okie dokie.
Bye.
Bye bye. I'll see you when you get back, maybe. Anyway, where were we, Zachary?
Where's my baby?
You just told me about
The airlift.
and then dropping gum to kids.
Dropping, yeah, gum and candy. Gum and candy. Yeah, and then it got lots and lots of other pilots to do the same thing, so it was a real big thing. Let me see if Google says anything about that. Okay, Google, how about Berlin airlift and dropping chewing gum to kids? Tell you this go to mobile friendly. Gail Haverson in Berlin in 1989 during the 40th anniversary of the airlift. They made these drops once a week. The children began sending the whatever, this is a big story, dropped 23 tons of chocolate, chewing gum, and other candies over various places in Berlin. I don't know how to get the whole story on this thing here. In 1945, Germany fell to the Allied powers at the end of World War II. Operation Little Vittles grew as more and more pilots volunteered to drop the parachutes, and donations of candy and cloth poured in from all over, illustrated with archival photographs of personal. I shall return. Candy bomber looks back at Berlin airlift. Outer Banks Sentinel. Oh, that he's in here. I saw that on TV the other night. As word of his daily candy drop spread and the crowds of children grew, Halverson. Anyway, I want to say more about that. Wow, I'll tell you. Wow, about that. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm sorry. What's next?
Just like 2 or 3 more questions.
Okay, that's what you. I've got 100 more.
What would you say your favorite, your favorite experience or your favorite memory was?
During the war, or just
Just in general.
Oh, I think the favorite. favorite memory, could it be like a trip?
Trip, meeting someone, doing something.
Let's see, don't remember offhand meeting anybody, but I think I've had lots of favorite times. My most wonderful thing of all was traveling with Granny to all the wonderful places we traveled to. But I've had some very nice travels. Would they work? Or
Yeah, that's fine.
a one trip, or
You can name a few.
multiple trips? Um, I'll just name the trips and then I'll share a couple of bits about each if that's okay, and you can use whatever you want to use or none.
That's fine.
Yeah. And we went to Russia because Granny was taking a course through the University of New Mexico, and so it was a training course for her. It was for her, but we were able to go to Moscow, Leningrad, and all kinds of places in Russia, and then we went to Lithuania and Moldavia on the trip also. It was traveling to the Soviet Union before the wall fell. And so that was pretty exciting, I thought. That was the Russia trip. We made a trip through the Soviet Union. Went through some seriously communist countries. Went through Romania. Went through Hungary, Czechoslovakia. This was on a trip to Europe, but we were able to go through those countries when they were having. A lot of people were kicked out of a country. I think it was Turkey, but we were able to bypass this like 25-mile backup of cars that were stopped from going into, I believe it was Romania, and we were on a bus tour, and our bus was able to pass all of them, and we got into Romania real easy. But to see these thousands of people, old people carrying bags on their shoulders like they were during the war. You see movies of people walking with bags on their shoulder, dragging carts, and they were just miles and miles of people that had been forced out of that country, I think. So that was really something. So that trip was a good one. I enjoyed that one. Our trip to Australia and New Zealand, I enjoyed that. That was a wonderful trip. Kenna had received an award that gave us free flight from here to New Zealand and from Australia back home. And it was on a 747 in business class that didn't cost us anything. So that was very exciting, but it was just great being in New Zealand and great being in Australia. And a couple of neat things there. And we visited Tasmania and were able to see Tasmanian devils in the zoo. We didn't see any wild ones.
I remember she loved. I remember she had that one magnet on your fridge of Tasmania.
Yes, yes. But the thing I remember the most, I enjoyed lots of that stuff. We took the old cars on a. Oh, what the hell? What kind of boat do they old cars on?
Ferry.
A ferry, yeah. Thank you. That was a test. You passed it with flying colors.
Well, there's some ferries where it's. As I remember, we've been on a few. Like some of them, like for tour purposes, and I remember being on one or seeing one where they transport cars.
Yeah, well, they do. Yeah. When we were in New Zealand, we rented a motorhome, and we were going from the North Island to the South Island, and we got a motorhome. And lots of people had their cars and motorhomes in there, but the sea was so rough that the what was it?
Ferry.
The ferry, yeah. The ferry. There was a boat, the Whale River was a boat, but the ferry went down under the waves, and you couldn't see the boat over there. It was that rough, and everybody was sick on that thing, both to the north and coming back. But anyway, we had a wonderful trip in that. And then in Australia, we went to Tasmania there, but then in Australia, we went to like Ayers Rock and Alice Springs, and then from there flew up to what's called Cairns. It's up at the top end, and I don't know whether it's the north or south or east or west, I don't know that. But from Cairns to Sydney, Australia, we had rented a motorhome, and we traveled the Great Barrier Reef. And Granny loved to go swimming.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
snorkeling.
Oh, and anything in the water, yes. And this was during their winter. So during their winter, nobody was on the Great Barrier Reef except us. But it was still like 75 degrees. The weather was so nice for us, but for some reason the Australians didn't like it, so they didn't go up there during their winter. Their winter is the opposite of ours. If you're there in July and August, you're there in their winter. So we were there in the winter, and we were traveling along, and I tell you, in Australia, the gas stations, everyone that we went to, they had showers that people could use to clean up. And so we had a motorhome with no shower, so we'd take showers in those things. But and they had lots of parks, and one of the parks was open. Generally, some were closed, but this particular one was open, and it had hot water and everything. It was really nice. But we walked to the beach that evening. We were just there one night, but we walked to the beach that evening before it got dark. Had a flashlight with us, anyway. But we were there when it was dark, and for whatever it was. And I think they said it was some kind of special fish or something, but the water all lit up, fluorescent, as the waves would come in, it would be fluorescent, and it was somehow the fish were putting off light, and it was just gorgeous. It was such a thing to see. And also on that trip in our motorhome, we were driving down the highway at night, and both Gail and I could see this light coming up from behind us. It looked like a train light, and it came up so fast, and it was gone.
I remember that. She always said that. She said, you guys were like in the middle. She said you guys were in the middle of nowhere going down a road. It was just you guys, and then you saw like a really big bright light right behind you.
Yes.
And it just flies up right behind you.
Yes.
And then it just goes away.
Then it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Never figured that sucker out. That was exciting. That was exciting.
I think she also said one where it was like the exact same thing, but like it was somewhere in the States, and you guys were going down a road, like a dirt road. It was like a really bumpy road, and I think she said it was two lights, and it looked like a truck light coming towards you guys. But it wasn't that fast. Like she said, it was coming pretty slow. And then you like swerved to miss it, or like you swerved to like get out of its way because it was like a one-lane road. And then she said when she turned around to see what it was gone, and then there was no lights.
I don't remember that one. That one I don't remember.
It might have been that one where it was coming from behind you. But
Yeah.
for some
Well,
reason,
she went on some trips without me too, down in Mexico and stuff like that. She went on a lot.
Mhm.
She went on a lot of. Like I had no interest in going down to Baja California,
Mhm.
and she did it twice, I think. I did go down there some, but not. She went all the way down with your mother, Chris and Jenna, and some other kids from their friends. But I had no interest at all in going to Baja, going to Cabo San Lucas. That was a long trip, long couple of days. Yeah, I didn't even interest in that. But I enjoyed our trip to China too. We were able to go to China, and I took a week cruise down the Yangtze River. That was before they have a dam now there. It's displaced thousands and thousands of people, but they've dammed up the Yangtze River. And we took that boat. That's about the boat ride I remember the most. And there's so many people in China that when some die, nobody really.
Nobody notices.
Yeah, they don't notice because there's just so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw at least 2 bodies floating by us in the Yangtze River because they're hard to recover.
Mm-hmm.
The river flows real fast, and people will fish and they'll slide off these rocks into the river,
Yeah.
and they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very meaningful.
Did you go fishing when you were there? Because I know that from some of the shows that I watch, like some fishing shows, that they have like really big fish there.
Yeah.
And some people always try to fish.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't do that. I'll tell you a fisherman is Christopher. Christopher did a lot of fishing when he was your age. He loved fishing.
I remember you and I used to go out sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you remember the trip we took down to Alabama?
Was it just the two of us?
Yes, it was me and you in my motorhome.
I remember going on one with you, and we had the camper.
Yes.
And I think one of us got hooked. It might have been the Alabama trip.
Well, yeah. I don't remember that business, but we did go fishing though, because we got, and you caught fish. But that was moved out of Martin Luther King area, and when it was real bad on blacks. I mean, when I grew up, it was an entirely different world than it is now.
Oh yeah.
Entirely different. There's still prejudiced people around, but and then those days they had the colored restrooms, the colored water fountains, the colored waiting rooms, the back of the bus. It's an entirely different world. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. But those. I don't know. In the Great Wall of China, that was interesting. Walking on that. Going up the Eiffel Tower, that was very interesting. Seeing all the volcanic activity in New Zealand. There's a lot of volcanic activity in New Zealand. Seeing Ayers Rock in Australia. There's a lot of anyway. Other than that, I can't think of anything exciting in my life.
Another or two more. There's what do you think? Looking back on what you've experienced or what you've gone through your life, what do you think has influenced you the most to make you, or what's one thing that you feel like you've experienced or that you've witnessed that's made you what you are today?
Well, I gotta say, this applies to both me and my sister, I think. And more so to my sister, she'd probably do a better job of explaining it. But my mother had at the most a third grade education. So my mother was not an educated person, but she insisted on her son and daughter to become educated. And she read to us all the time. She would read to us even though she may not have recognized the reading. And we always as kids, she had a little record player and would have good music to play on the record player. And she was insistent on us attending school. It was very important to attend school. And so mothers, and my daddy was rather educated. He finished it when he was a boy. My daddy was born in 1882. That's a long ways back. He was 57 when I was born. I was born in 39. He was 57 years old. So I was raised by like a grandfather. I didn't have a dad. I had a grandfather that raised me as a dad. And he was early to bed, early to rise. Anyway, he's a very hard worker. Both he and mother are very hard workers. She insisted on us having a good education and being able to prepare ourselves for what happens after we get out of school, because it's going to happen. You're going to get out of school, and someday mom's not going to support you anymore. She's going to become old, and to have you support her actually wasn't going to turn out to be. See, you're going to be supporting her. Maybe not she won't do that. But anyway, mother and dad insisted that we be. I think that's the thing that's really has made helped me become. I think I've been relatively successful, starting out as a poor little boy, and ended up to be rather financially comfortable, and educated. So education was extremely important to my mother, although she wasn't formally educated. She had a lot of smarts. I don't know if you know, my mother there were 14 boys, brothers and sisters in her family. She had 4 brothers and 9 sisters, and she was the next to the youngest. She was born in 1906, and my Aunt Gladys was born in 1907, 1 year later, and their mother died in the birth of Aunt Gladys. So, they were raised by sisters. I'm gonna let my telephone take my attention away from what's important. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Let me think where I was at. Oh, see, mother had 14 brothers. There were 14.
You're talking about how your mom was the second to the youngest.
Yeah, and Aunt Gladys was the youngest, and when their mother died, they were raised by their father and one of the daughters. I think it was Aunt Maudie, who's my cousin Dub's mother. She was the one that acted as a mother for the ones younger than her, the girls. There were 4 boys and 10 girls. And one of my aunts, my Aunt Lemma, who lived in California, she had 16 children. She and Uncle Walter, they got married. She was either 14 or 16. I don't know if she was just a baby. Way too young, but they were married for 60 years before Uncle Walter died. They were married up, so anyway, a big family. And my grandfather had the cotton gins, and was pretty successful. But then I don't know what caused him to lose that deal. It wasn't necessarily the depression, because I don't know what happened to his. But he had cotton gins. His mother always talked about having to pick cotton or pull cotton bolls. There was their way of picking or pulling, I don't know. But they had to work in the cotton fields. So she knew what hard work was. My mother worked very hard. She, and my daddy too. My mother would, to get income for the family, my daddy worked for Mr. Morris. I remember that job. And I don't know how much money he was paid. Very little money was paid. But we had a free house to live in. He had a pickup truck, a 37 Ford pickup, and a lot of farm groceries and milk and butter from the cows. And then we moved to town. Well, then Daddy went to work for A. Brand Upholstery Company, and he worked there 5 years before he fell and broke his leg. And then he was retired from but he went back to farming. Then went back to Mr. Morris's farming work, and we stayed in the town. But Mother, to earn money, she would wash and iron people's clothes. She would clean houses. She would clean churches. So did lots of labor work just to earn a little bit of money. And she would make as I said earlier, make shirts and my sister's dresses out of the flour sacks. So it was a hard life for a mother, but she was insistent that her little boy and little girl were going to have a better opportunity in life than she did, and I think we probably did. I don't think there's any question about it. Ann, of course, marrying Paul has been very successful. She was successful in her own right. She ended up being superintendent of schools in a school district the same size as Louisa's. So she was pretty successful at that, and I think I've been relatively successful. So I think Mother succeeded. So I think so. Anyway, did that answer that question? Okay.
The last one might take a little bit of thought, but
I'm gonna have to think.
well, there might be something that you could think of straight away.
Okay.
But I just thought of if you could go back, like if you had a time machine, if you could go back and change one thing about like anything that happened, what would you
In
change?
my life?
Yeah.
There's no question, the one thing I would change is I would finish school. Biggest mistake in my life. It ended up being okay, but I missed out on all kinds of things. Missed out on all kinds of things, and missed out on, and it was lots of friends, because I had a lot of good friends when I quit school, you know. But I think the worst mistake I made in life, and the one thing I would go back and change, is I would not have dropped out of school. I would have, of course, if I hadn't done that, there wouldn't be a you. I would never have met Granny. There would have been no Tamara. You'd have been somewhere else. There wouldn't have been a Tamara. Not, you know. So anyway, it turned out okay because I have fantastic grandchildren, especially one
The
grandson.
best ones.
That's right. No, so there's good things that happen, but there's no question. It doesn't take me long to figure that one out. That was the worst mistake I made. Now, it may have turned out work, you know, but who knows? I might have finished school and ended up being a bum, who knows? But I don't think I've ended up being a bum, so. In my mind, the worst mistake I made was quitting school. That's it, there didn't take much thought around it. There's no question.
And then there's one that I just came up with.
Hope you don't.
Asking that one is, if you could go back and relive any experience that you've been through, what would you want to experience again?
Probably a few of those.
You can name a couple of times.
Well, let me think of it. Certainly I would have, well, let's see, there's another point I would go back, now that I thought about it. I would go back to the morning of December the 23rd, 2011, and I would have a different route home. I don't know, I remember to put that down, but that, who knows, I would have maybe not had an accident.
Well, I know that one.
Yeah. Let's see. What was the question again? Oh yeah, do something
If
different.
you could relive any experience.
Relive, yeah. Let's see. I don't know, I get a couple of times I got in a fight, I prefer not to go. It hurt, I got hurt. I mean, they hit me. That didn't feel good, or did I feel bad? I would like to kick his butt instead of mine. No, I never had many fights. I can only remember one fight I had in my life. And I was so big, I mean, I just overpowered him. But it didn't hit him, I just held him down. So I've never fought because I didn't want to get hit, I didn't want to hurt, and I never really liked to hurt anybody. So I never really had any fights. I guess one thing I remember is in PE in elementary school, this is an odd thing to remember, but I remember her name was Sylvia Fox, and she was a fox, by the way. This was like in the 4th grade. It probably was the 5th grade, because for the 6th and 7th I moved out to the country and went to a different school. But Sylvia Fox, I cannot believe this happened. We used to have PE, of course, and we'd run relays, we'd run around the track. And one time I was running and she was running at the same time, and she was able to beat me. Sylvia Fox, can you believe that? Sylvia Fox was able to beat me, a girl was able to beat me running. I had a lot of girlfriends in the 5th grade. Sylvia Fox, Margaret Griffith. Yes, I remember Margaret Griffith. That was one of my real loves. She lived on Avenue L, and we lived on Avenue. No, she lived on L. She lived on Avenue. We lived on K. I think she must have lived on Avenue I. And I would go over and play at her house. I liked Margaret Griffith. She was a nice girl. country elementary kids. But really, getting beat by Sylvia Fox, I still can't imagine how that happened.